Michael Jackson is bathed in stadium light, the kind that erases shadows and turns a human being into an idea. His voice glides over the crowd, precise and effortless, muscle memory carrying him forward while thousands of hands rise and fall in rhythm. Then something cuts through the music, not a sound the audience can hear, but one he cannot escape. A voice in his ear, tight and shaking. 2 words at first. Princess Diana. His foot misses its mark by inches. Then the 3rd word lands, heavy and final, the kind that cannot be rehearsed away. His body keeps moving even as his mind stalls. The choreography continues, because that is what it has been trained to do, but the center of him goes strangely hollow. He smiles because the lights demand it, because the cameras demand it, because stopping is not part of the plan. One of the dancers glances over, just for a second, long enough to notice something is wrong. Michael adjusts his grip on the microphone, breath steady by force alone, and keeps singing to a crowd that has no idea the world has just shifted under his feet. To understand why that message hits like a physical blow, you have to understand what Diana was to him. She was not royalty in his eyes. She was refuge, one of the few people on the planet who understood what it meant to be adored by millions and still feel unbearably alone. They spoke about children, about pressure, about how giving became a survival instinct when privacy disappeared. In a life crowded with handlers and expectations, she had been something rare, normal, kind, safe. Backstage, the machine keeps moving. Cues are called, lights change, nobody dares interrupt him again. There is a belief, almost superstitious, that if he is not told fully, if the truth is kept just out of reach, the show can be contained. The audience roars at the end of the song, and he bows, slower than usual, eyes scanning past the footlights. That is when he sees it. Tucked just beyond the curtain, resting on a black equipment case, is a folded note with his name written carefully across the front. Not printed, not typed, handwritten, and suddenly, finishing the show feels impossible. Before that night, there had been a quiet, almost invisible thread connecting them. 2 figures the world treated as symbols instead of people, crushed under expectation, generosity weaponized into obligation. Michael understood her in a way few ever could. She had spoken to him without spectacle, without fear, asking about his children's hospitals, his sleep, his loneliness. In return, he listened to her stories about cameras, about feeling watched, even in silence. In private moments, she was not royalty. She was simply Diana. That was the name that mattered. Backstage, the air feels wrong. It hums with tension that has nothing to do with sound checks or lighting cues. Word is moving faster than the music, passing through earpieces and whispers, glances and unfinished sentences. Promoters huddle near the sidewall, arguing in low voices about responsibility and liability. Security radios chirp constantly, each burst of static tightening the knot in Michael's chest. Someone says the audience cannot know yet. Someone else says he cannot be told until after the finale. As if grief can be delayed, as if reality waits for applause. The band stands frozen near the wings, instruments hanging heavy at their sides. They are professionals, but they are also human, and they can feel it slipping. Michael walks past them, eyes distant, mind racing faster than the choreography ever could. He notices how nobody will meet his gaze for long. That tells him everything and nothing at the same time. He clutches the folded note but does not open it, not yet. He needs to hear it spoken. He stops near a familiar face, someone who has always told him the truth. His voice is calm when he asks the question, terrifyingly calm, like he is bracing for impact. Is it real? Is she gone? For a fraction of a second, the answer hangs in the air, raw and exposed. Then it is shaped into something softer, safer, almost merciful. An accident, they say. Unclear details, nothing confirmed. We will know more later. Michael nods slowly, because that is what is expected of him. He thanks them and turns back toward the stage, heart pounding, instincts screaming. The lie does not comfort him. It sharpens his fear. Because if they are willing to lie now, in this moment, it means the truth is worse than he can imagine. And somewhere beyond the roar of the crowd, the world has already changed, whether he is ready or not. The tour is not just a series of shows. It is a moving city with its own laws, built on contracts, cameras, rehearsed smiles, and a schedule that does not pause for grief or shock. Once it starts rolling, it does not stop. Michael knows this better than anyone. Adrenaline carries him from cue to cue, and routine becomes the thin wire keeping him upright. Every step is familiar, every turn practiced, but tonight the air feels heavier, like something poisonous has seeped into the walls. As he moves through the corridors, he senses the shift before anyone speaks. Conversations stop when he passes. Eyes slide away too quickly. People who usually joke and chatter suddenly find urgent tasks elsewhere. He hears fragments he is not meant to hear. Whispers about Paris, about tunnels, about speed and cameras. No one says her name out loud near him, and that silence is louder than any scream. They try to manage him the only way they know how. A handler stays glued to his side, talking too much, smiling too hard. Someone suggests swapping the next song for something more upbeat, as if tempo can outrun reality. A wardrobe assistant rushes a costume change that does not need rushing, hands shaking as she adjusts sequins. Every distraction is another attempt to guide him forward without letting him look left or right, without letting him stop. Michael lets them do it because stopping feels dangerous. If he pauses, even for a second, everything he is holding back might flood in at once. He breathes in counts, listens for the familiar click of the stage manager's cues, and tells himself to focus on the next mark, the next lyric, the next beat. The crowd roars, unaware, feeding him energy that now feels sharp instead of warm. But the world outside the arena does not respect the rules of the tour. It does not wait for finales or encore bows. It presses in through screens and signs and whispers. As he climbs the stage stairs, light spilling over him again, something catches his eye beyond the barricades. A hand raised above the crowd, holding a piece of cardboard with thick black letters. Just one word. Diana. He steps back into the light and becomes the version of himself the world expects to see. Smooth, electric, untouchable. But something is off immediately. He misses a cue by a fraction of a second, just enough for the dancers to adjust on instinct. His shoulders tighten, posture more rigid than fluid. The band keeps pushing forward, because stopping does not exist in their vocabulary. The show must move, even if the ground beneath it has shifted. As he scans the crowd, he realizes the energy has changed. The front rows are not cheering the way they usually do. People are leaning forward, eyes fixed on him, studying his face instead of the stage. They are not here just to be entertained anymore. They are waiting to see if he knows, waiting to see if he will break. The applause comes late, uneven, like it is holding something back. Near the side of the stage, a monitor flickers, momentarily ignored by everyone except him. For a split second, it stabilizes, and he catches a flash of white text against a dark banner. Breaking news. He does not read every word. He does not need to. His chest tightens, breath hitching so sharply it almost steals his voice. The lie from backstage collapses in on itself, and the truth rushes in to fill the space. The song continues, but it feels thinner now, stripped of warmth. His voice wavers just enough that only trained ears would catch it. He swallows, forcing control, but the weight is pressing down harder with every note. Somewhere in the crowd, someone shouts her name. It is swallowed by the music, but it lands all the same. His fingers tighten around the microphone, knuckles whitening under the lights. He moves toward the edge of the stage without fully deciding to. The steps feel longer than they should. He raises one hand, palm out, a universal signal the band recognizes instantly. They slow, then fade, instruments trailing off into a silence that feels dangerous. The stadium quiets, confusion rippling outward, as thousands of people realize something unscripted is happening. Michael stands there, light washing over him, the noise gone, the moment fully exposed. His heart is pounding so loudly, it feels like the crowd should hear it. Words line up in his mind and then scatter. He knows he has to speak. He knows the next few seconds will matter more than anything else tonight. And for the first time since the message came through his ear, he has no idea what he is about to say. He does not raise his voice. He does not rush. He does not fall apart. Somehow he steadies himself in the center of the stage and lets the silence do the work for him. When he finally speaks, he says her name slowly, carefully, as if the wrong inflection might fracture the room beyond repair. Princess Diana. The sound of it ripples through the crowd, not loud, but heavy. A collective breath is drawn and held. For the first time all night, the arena is listening instead of watching. He asks for a moment of quiet, not as a command, but as a request. Thousands of people comply instantly. No screaming, no applause, just stillness. He explains that the next song is for someone who believed in compassion, in children, in giving, without needing the spotlight. He does not explain the connection. He does not need to. The restraint is the point. By refusing to overshare, he turns the moment into something sacred instead of sensational. The song he chooses is gentle, almost fragile. It is built to carry emotion without breaking under it. As the first notes begin, the crowd does not cheer. They listen. Michael sings with control that borders on discipline, holding his voice steady even as his eyes glass over. Every line feels deliberate, placed with care, like he is walking across thin ice and refusing to look down. The arena becomes a shared space of grief, guided rather than consumed. This is the move that changes everything. He does not run from the moment, and he does not let it swallow him. He frames it. He gives the crowd a role, not as witnesses to his pain, but as participants in something quieter and more human. He bows once, briefly, and leaves the stage without an encore. The lights fade behind him and the hallway closes in, narrow and dim after the glare. The noise of the crowd becomes muffled, distant, like it belongs to another world. As soon as the curtain falls shut, the control drains out of him. His shoulders fold inward. His hands shake. He presses his forehead against the wall and finally lets himself feel it. The show is over. The loss is not. The hotel suite is quiet in a way that feels unnatural, like the walls are absorbing sound out of respect or fear. Once the door closes behind him, the adrenaline that carried him through the stage lights drains all at once, leaving a hollow space that feels bottomless. He sits, then stands, then paces without direction. Images replay on a loop he cannot shut off. The cardboard sign rising from the crowd, the flash of the monitor, the way her name felt in his mouth, heavier than any lyric he has ever sung. Around him, people move with purpose, but not peace. Assistants pass glasses of water he does not drink. Phones buzz nonstop as managers speak in hushed tones about timing, statements, optics. Someone opens a laptop and starts drafting words meant to sound heartfelt and controlled, as if grief can be formatted into something presentable. Michael barely registers them. He does not want language crafted for public consumption. He wants facts, confirmation, details, something solid enough to make this real, because part of him still expects someone to say, "There has been a mistake." He reaches for the phone on the table, fingers hovering just above it. Then he pulls his hand back, heart racing. Every ring feels like it could deliver another blow, another image he will never be able to erase. When the phone finally does ring, he flinches hard enough that everyone in the room freezes. An assistant answers, nods, whispers, and sets it back down without meeting his eyes. That silence tells him more than words ever could. Outside the suite, the world is already grieving. News feeds loop footage of her smiling, waving, surrounded by flashes. Crowds gather, flowers piling up in places that mean something to her. Inside, time has slowed to a crawl. Michael sinks into a chair, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles ache. He rocks slightly, a small unconscious motion like a child trying to soothe himself. Someone finally speaks, softly, saying the words he has been dreading. Confirmed. No survivors. He nods once, as if acknowledging a cue, and stares at the floor. The room feels smaller now, air heavier, walls closer. The machine outside will keep running, but in here, everything has stopped. Then there's a knock at the door. Security answers it, listens for a moment, then turns back toward him. Their voice is careful, measured, the way people speak when they know nothing they say will make this better. "There is someone here to see you." They say it is official. They say it is about Diana. In the years that follow, the story refuses to stay still. It bends and stretches the way all legends do once enough people need them to mean something. Some swear he collapsed on stage, that the lights went dark, and the crowd watched a king fall in real time. Others insist he screamed her name, that grief tore through the stadium like feedback through a speaker. A few say he never finished the show at all, that the night ended in chaos and confusion. None of those versions are true, but they persist because they feel dramatic enough to match the loss. The truth is quieter, and because of that, harder to carry. He did not collapse. He did not scream. He did not flee. He held the stage together with discipline and instinct, then unraveled somewhere no one could turn it into spectacle. The applause ended at the curtain, but the damage did not. That night became a private marker in his life, one that never made it into liner notes or official biographies, but shaped everything that came after. Those close to him noticed changes that were difficult to explain. He became more guarded before shows, lingering longer in silence, listening harder to the voices in his ear. Songs about healing took on a different weight. Moments of stillness stretched just a little longer than before. He understood now how thin the wall was between performance and reality, how quickly the outside world could break through the illusion he worked so carefully to maintain. Fame had always promised protection, a buffer between him and ordinary pain. That night shattered the promise. It did not insulate him from reality. It trapped him inside it, forced him to carry loss while still being watched, still being expected to transcend it for others. The machine never slowed, but something inside him did. Something essential learned it could be reached. The symbol of that night is not a headline or a photograph. It is not a tribute clip replayed endlessly on television. It is the sound of a voice in his ear, cutting clean through music, reminding him that no amount of applause can stop the world from intruding. Once you hear that voice, once it delivers something that cannot be undone, you are never quite the same. He would go on to perform, to create, to give. The legend survived, but the scar stayed. And every time the lights came up and the crowd roared, there was a part of him that remembered exactly how fragile that moment could be, and how quickly it could disappear.